Hello, I'm Anastasia. Welcome to Sacred Reset, a quiet place to breathe, to reflect, and to reset. This is your space to realign, to reconnect, and to remember who you are. A place for stories and affirmations that transform perspective. Let's breathe together. Take a slow, deep breath. Inhale, hold, and gently release. Jesus was a man who loved women. Today, I am very excited to begin our series, Why Women Love Jesus. And we have already scratched the surface and figured out that one of the main reasons women love Jesus is because Jesus loved women. And his love is the healthiest kind of love that a man can have for a woman. His love was kind, sure, but many people are kind. Jesus' love was a big, delicious, juicy sandwich. It was a sandwich with two thick white slices of love, stacked with grace and understanding, with patience, protection, restoration, and accountability. And we see Grupa, grace, restoration, understanding, patience, protection, and accountability unfold in every single encounter that Jesus has with the women that we are going to explore in this series. And what made his love for women extra special was the way he restored what had been diminished. Not just healing their physical ailments or relieving their emotional pain. Jesus loved women by restoring their divine identity. In other words, the person that they were when they were created, when they were born, when they came into this world, before life's challenges and traumas got a hold of them and changed their personalities and wounded them emotionally and psychologically. Jesus was a healer who became a mirror that allowed them to see themselves the way that God sees them. And transformation often led to lifelong commitments to his ministry, to his teaching, and to the work of the church. So I want to invite you to come along with me as we take a nostalgic trip back to the first century to meet the woman at the well. You may know her as the Samaritan woman. And we can find her story in the book of John, chapter 4. I'm going to be reading verses 4 through 29 and verses 39 through 42 from the NIV 1984 version. And it reads, "Now he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour, and in the first century, the 6th hour would have been midday, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water. Jesus said to her, 'Will you give me a drink?' His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, 'You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?' For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his flocks and herds?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." Jesus declared, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship him in spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I who speak to you am he." Just then the disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking to her?" Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I did. Could this be the Christ?" Many of the Samaritans from the town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. "He told me everything I ever did." So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days. And because of his words, many more became believers. They said to the woman, "We no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this man really is the Savior of the world." Wow. Wow, 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 and wow. What a powerful story that absolutely personifies what happens when we have an encounter with the true living God. Now, if you haven't, I want to encourage you to listen to the previous episode that I did on the life of women in the first century. It will give you insight into how women lived and were treated during the first century, and it will really paint a powerful parallel of how society, religion viewed women and how Jesus handled them. It will give you a solid background and context for what is happening in every one of these women's lives. And in order to give you context for what's happening in the life of this Samaritan woman, I want to just briefly go over some of the dynamics between the Jews and the Samaritans in Jesus' day and time. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to put the full story in the description box so you can read it for yourself. But I'm just going to go over a few bullet points so that you understand why Jesus, being a Jew, having a conversation with this Samaritan woman did not just perplex her, it was absolutely out of alignment with what was considered normal. Okay, the hostility between Jews and Samaritans developed over centuries because of political division, ethnic identity, and religious disagreement. And by the time of Jesus, the tension was so deep that many Jews and Samaritans avoided one another entirely. And it began with the kingdom split. After the reign of King Solomon, the nation of Israel divided. That was around 930 BC. And after the nation split into two parts, Samaria became the capital city for the northern king of Israel, while Jerusalem remained the capital for the southern kingdom of Judah. And that split created political rivalry that later became religious rivalry. And by Jesus' day, many Jews would travel around Samaria rather than go through it. Jews generally avoided eating with Samaritans. Some considered Samaritans ceremonially unclean. Samaritans also held negative views of Jews. And if you want a modern day parallel, many of us did not grow up during the time of segregated United States, but during our time, that is the closest parallel that I can make to what was happening between the Jews and the Samaritans. What segregation between blacks and whites was, it was very much the way that Jews and Samaritans avoided one another. There was everything for coloreds and everything for whites, and the two did not intermingle. So Jesus's actions, you can imagine, were super shocking. It would be the equivalent of a white person back in the 1950s in segregated America going into a colored-only restaurant and having a conversation with the black people or inviting them to come over to the whites-only restaurant. It was not just socially unacceptable, it was against the law. The Jim Crow laws of the United States absolutely prevented the intermingling of blacks and whites during that time. So it is exactly like that. This is why the Samaritan woman was so stunned that Jesus was talking to her. It just was not done. And this history of Jews versus Samaritans also explains why several gospel stories surprised Jesus' listeners, because he often used Samaritans in his parables. Remember the parable of the Good Samaritan? He makes the Samaritan the hero. And remember in Luke chapter 17, when he praised the Samaritan leper, he was the only one who returned to say thank you after he had been healed. And so this encounter from the very beginning was something that was completely out of the norm. Jesus is waiting. He intentionally crossed social, ethnic, and religious barriers. Everything about this meeting breaks social expectations. A Jewish rabbi, first of all, does not speak privately with a Samaritan woman. It just wasn't done. Jews and Samaritans avoided one another. Men generally did not initiate conversations with women in public. Yet Jesus simply says, "Will you give me a drink?" Notice where he begins. And I just love it. He begins with the common touch. He meets her where she is. He doesn't begin with her failures. He doesn't say, I know you're sleeping with a bunch of men. You had a bunch of men, and I know the one you're with ain't you anyway. He didn't start with her past. He didn't start with condemnation. He begins with presence. He begins with relationship. He begins with connection before correction. Before he confronts her with truth, he welcomes her with love. As they speak, Jesus just gently shifts the conversation from the physical water to the living water. It's similar to what he did with Peter and Andrew. Remember when he said they were fishing and he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. He met people exactly where they were. That became the topic of conversation right away to make an immediate connection. So she thinks that they're talking about the well, because she's like, well, give me some of this water so that I don't have to keep coming back to this well. But Jesus is speaking about the deepest thirst of the human soul. Then comes the moment, right? He says, go call your husband. And she's honest. She says, I don't have any husband. But Jesus already knew this. Jesus knew. He knew this. In fact, do you think that he went to the well to wait for her to come? I think so. So why do you think he asked her to go call her husband? I think that he wanted her to come to terms with the gravity and reality of where she was, and to give her the opportunity to come clean. It's very similar to when he asked the lame man. Remember the lame man in John chapter 5, the next chapter? He asked the disabled man, do you want to get well? And so she is honest, and her honesty puts her in a position to be completely healed. Because Jesus already knew. He knows every chapter of her life. Yet he never humiliates her. He shows her grace. He restores her. He understands her. He gives her patience, protection, and accountability. He names her pain without shaming her. He knows her completely, and he loves her completely. And that is what changed everything. The woman who came carrying shame leaves with a heart full of hope. The woman who comes looking for water leaves overflowing with love and purpose and passion. And she runs back to her village. She's excited. She's passionate. She says, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Notice that she didn't say, come meet the man who condemned me. Come meet the man who made me feel so bad about my mistakes. Come and see a man who told me everything I ever did, is what she said. And just think about that for a moment. Why wasn't she ashamed? Because for the very first time, someone knew everything about her and just loved her anyway. It did not cause him to turn away from her. His love was unconditional, and that is why the woman at the well loved Jesus, because he didn't expose her to embarrass her. He revealed her heart so that he could heal her. He knew that she was hurting. He knew that she was isolated and separated. The woman who came to the well that afternoon is not the same woman who leaves. She arrived hiding, she leaves proclaiming. She arrived alone, she leaves inviting others to come. She arrived thirsty, she leaves overflowing. She arrives carrying a water jar, she leaves carrying living water. What changed? Not her circumstances, not her town, not her nationality, not her race, not her past. She encountered Jesus. And a real encounter with Jesus always changes us. So as I speak these words, please consider an encounter with Jesus today. When I encounter Jesus, I am fully known and deeply loved. When I encounter Jesus, my past no longer defines me. When I encounter Jesus, my soul is satisfied. When I encounter Jesus, I am free from shame. When I encounter Jesus, grace is rewriting my story. When I encounter Jesus, all things are becoming new. When I encounter Jesus, I worship in spirit and truth. When I encounter Jesus, living water flows through me. When I encounter Jesus, I walk in purpose and peace. As you move throughout your day, remember this. Women love Jesus because he satisfies the deepest thirst of the human heart, a thirst for identity, freedom, fulfillment, healing, transformation, renewal, worship, witness, quenching, purpose. The woman at the well became a witness and an evangelist, preaching the gospel of life and living water found only in a relationship with Jesus Christ. Next week, we pay a visit to the woman with the alabaster box and learn why she loved Jesus. Please share this episode, like, comment, and subscribe. You are here for a reason. Your life has meaning, and you are not alone. I'm Anastasia. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. God bless and peace.